What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to a whole new video. My name is Thomas, and today I'm going to be showing you how to add fire to any photo you want. It can be in the foreground, it can be in the background, it can be on your dog. It's very, very simple. I'm going to use this image as an example and show you how I did it. I'm going to run through the basic corrections very, very quickly, just because I want to get onto the actual main content of adding the fire in, but doing the adjustments will help you no end. Let's get into it. So I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to Open, I'm going to go to my desktop where I've got my image saved, bring that in. I shot it in RAW. I recommend you shoot all of your imagery in RAW. It will help you out in the long run, and then it will bring you into, it recognizes all of your settings already, and it kind of auto adjusts it if you want, but this is how I shot it, and this is how we're going to alter it. So I'm going to bring the highlights down, and I'm going to bring the whites down, I'm going to bring the shadows up, I'm going to bring the blacks up, just to bring some detail out in the hair and the flowers in the background, whatever you want, and also the eyes a little bit. You'll see why that later. So I'm going to go to my tone curve here. I'm going to add a slight adjustment, bring the highlights up a little bit there, and just bring it down slightly in contrast. I'm going to do that with all of them in the RGB curve. I'm going to bring it up a little bit. I'm going to bring it down a little bit. I'm going to bring it up a little bit on the green. Wait. And bring it down again. And then I'm going to do the same with the blue. Bring it up a bit. Bring it down a bit in there. I'm just going to go back to my RGB and just push that up a little bit. Not much, but just a little bit. Then I'm going to go to my HSL adjustments, and I'm just going to play around with the hue for a second. We don't really want it that orange, but I'm just going to make that a little bit more orange. Bring the yellows into more of a sort of an orangey, fiery level of a sort of effect. Bring the reds just across a little bit. I'm going to bring my aquas sort of. I want to make this aqua the same sort of color palette. So I'm just going to push it more into the green area, and then push that up so it looks more greenish. And then the magentas and purples don't really matter too much. So we're going to go to our saturation. I'm going to bring the reds down slightly. I'm going to bring the oranges up a little bit. I might just bring them down just a little bit there. I'm going to bring my yellows up. I'm going to definitely push my greens down. I'm going to bring my blues down. Even bring the aqua down, I think, a little bit. Just try and get rid of it. In the luminance, I'm just going to push the oranges down a bit. I'm going to bring the yellows up a bit more. And then I'm going to push the aquas down. And even maybe just bring the oranges down a little bit more. Just like that. So now I'm going to go to the split toning. I'm going to push my saturation up here. I'm just going to bring it into sort of a more of an orangey yellow there. So it looks kind of cool. And then with the shadows, I'm going to bring that into the red area. Kind of just like that. And then with the balance, I'm just going to bring it down or up however I choose to see fit. I'm going to bring it all the way down there. I'm just going to make that a little bit less red. Make that maybe a little bit less red. Maybe have a little bit of color to that. Awesome. Now with that done, I'm going to quickly head over to my calibration. I'm going to turn my red primary down a little bit. I'm going to turn the green primary down definitely. Make that more of a flower leaves, a little bit more yellowish. Just going to bring the saturation on that down a little bit as well. And bring the blue primary down definitely a lot. So we're just going to push the saturation of that down, just so it kind of looks like it's in this apocalyptic style thing. Right, that's all of the basic adjustments I want there doing. So then I'm just going to quickly head over to my adjustment brush tab over here. And then I'm just going to scroll in and press Alt. I'm just going to zoom in to where her eyes are. And I'm going to add a brush here. And I'm just going to bring the exposure up a little bit. Contrast down, highlights up a bit, whites up a bit. We've got an orange color there. And I'm just going to color around her irises. I'm just going to bring that down slightly. Just going to bring the clarity up a bit, and then I'm just going to head back a little bit so we can see how it looks. Just trying to bring her eyes out a little bit, just to make it kind of look a little bit inhuman, but also as if it's reflecting the fire which will come in from above. I'm going to do the same with the other eye. It's just going to turn my brush down. You can do that by holding the right mouse button and bring it in. That looks pretty cool, and because it's like more black where the nose bridge is blocking out the supposed light, it looks kind of cool. Now what I'm going to do is quickly over to my graduated filter, and I'm going to bring in a light source as though the fire's coming in from above. That shows where that reflection is coming from. That kind of looks quite nice. I'm just going to bring my exposure down slightly, and I'm going to bring my contrast down slightly, and I'm also going to bring the highlights down slightly. Awesome. I'm going to do the same. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to bring the exposure all the way down, and then I'm going to bring it in so that we've got kind of like a black shadow down the bottom, because I want to pay attention to her face and also the fire that will be coming along here. Awesome. That's pretty much done. So all I'm going to do now is press open image. Okay, awesome. You've made your adjustments. The next part is very, very simple. You're going to go straight to Google. You're going to type into Google Images fire, and it's going to bring up fire with black backgrounds. I quite like this one, but I'm going to use that for a background first. So I'm going to right click, copy image, go back into Photoshop, Control V. I'm going to press into the blending mode over here. I'm going to put screen, which will get rid of the black background. Go over to my eraser tool, and I've got it on hardness 0%, so it's quite soft. We can get rid of these hard edges around here. Awesome. Now I'm going to put this flame in the background, behind her head and behind the flower. So I'm going to press Control T, which will allow me to move it. And then I'm going to do this one the back of her head first. So let's make it quite a big flame that's sort of raging in the background. I'm just going to press Control V on this one and unmute the bottom layer there. I'm just going to, on this top layer, I'm just going to rub out with the eraser tool some of the details on the fire here that I don't quite like. Just there. And then in the background, I'm just going to down here, rub this out. Anything that wouldn't be in the background behind her head. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now I'm going to double click on this layer. I'm going to go to satin. I've already got it enabled, but you want it on soft light. Make it black. Just bring the opacity up a little bit on that. You can make it whatever size works with your fire, or whatever. And then we're going to go to inner glow, which already has a little bit of problems with it because it's got a bit of thing that we haven't rubbed out there. Now back to the inner glow. I had it on white and I made it on overlay just so it kind of adds like a little bit of glow inside and it kind of chokes it a little bit. I'm going to keep that on 0. Awesome. That looks cool. And then I'm going to add an outer glow. I'm just going to, again, rub out some of the details that I would not want to see there. Awesome. That's really nice. Okay, that's an orange color just to kind of add that nice sort of orangey glow to it. I've got that on soft light. Next step is very simple. All you have to do is go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and you want to blur it so it's kind of in line with the blur of the background. But maybe just a little bit less so that you can see that it is in fact a flame. Awesome, I like that. Okay, I'm going to press Control J on that and make it a much more saturated flame, and I'm actually just going to turn the opacity down on that one slightly. Awesome. I'm going to go back to my other flame layer that I didn't undo, and I'm going to put it back on, Control T, and bring it in up here. I'm going to right click it, I'm going to flip horizontal so that it doesn't quite look the same, but it is still the same flame. And then I'm going to press OK, and I'm going to rub this out again. Just rub out the details that I just don't want there, and the details that wouldn't be in the foreground. Awesome. We don't want it on the flower, we want it behind the flower. So it kind of looks like that. Just going to undo that and do that again real quick. You can actually turn the opacity down if you want to see where the details of the flower would be, or your background or whatever it's going to be. Just turn that down like that, and that looks pretty cool. Awesome. Turn the opacity back up. Double click again. Satin. Outer glow. And inner glow. Again, we just need to get rid of some of these details here real quick. Just to make it look a bit more realistic. And then you want to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur again. And there we go, it's in the background. And then I'm just going to Control J to duplicate that once more. And just rub out anything that I don't want in the background there. I'm actually going to rub out this here, which is kind of in the way. I don't want any lines on this, making it look weird. I'm actually just going to turn the opacity down on that one as well. Awesome. That looks really cool. The next thing we're going to do is add some fire to the flower. So I'm going to go back into Google Images. I'm going to look for one that kind of is a long string, kind of like this one, kind of a long string of fire. Right click, copy image, Control V, bring it in, Control T to expand this out. Click, normal, put it on screen. We're going to put this on the top layer because it's in the foreground. Again, we're going to bring our eraser in. we're going to just remove any parts that we don't really want from this in the edges, just to try and isolate the image a little bit. Awesome. That looks nice. Control T, rotate it. This already fits quite nicely along the branch, so I'm just gonna, with Control, I'm just gonna extend it out a little bit so that it looks like it's kind of resting against the flower, and then I'm just gonna erase that so it kind of seeps into the edge. Awesome. We're gonna do the same as before. Double click it, satin, inner glow, outer glow, and do the same as before and get a Gaussian blur on that, because again, it's in the foreground now, so it's going to be blurry. Awesome. That looks quite nice. I'm just going to rub out with my eraser tool a little bit of that there. That looks really nice. I'm going to duplicate it, but I'm going to move that one instead. I'm just going to rotate it a little bit. I'm going to just extend it out to make that look cooler. Let's flip it horizontal and make sure it doesn't look quite like the same thread of fire as before. Maybe that's quite nice. Just like that. Awesome. Now the next big part of fire is embers. So we're going to go back to Google Images and type in embers. Choose any embers you like, anything that looks relatively realistic, like these ones here. Right click, copy image, Control V, back in. Awesome. Click. We're going to go on to screen to get rid of the black background. We're just going to bring these in down here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to filter, blur, but motion blur this time, and make them look a little bit out of place. Then I'm going to Control V on that. I'm going to Control V once more, and I'm going to bring these up. I'm going to right click, flip horizontal, make them look like they're all over the place, coming from all kinds of places. I'm actually going to rub some of these out a little bit, just to get rid of a couple of them. I don't want embers everywhere. I just want them to look like they're kind of jarring across the screen, which is awesome. And then I'm just going to make one more with that layer of embers just down here. Awesome. Now that's the image done for now, but I'm going to do one more thing. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but it's very, very simple. If you have the Adobe Suite and you have Lightroom as well as Photoshop, it will help just add a little bit more pizzazz to the photo and make it stand out. We're going to go to Save As, Desktop, Photoshop, File, Fire Tut. Whilst that's saving, I'm going to hop on over to Lightroom and open it up in there. Okay, so I brought my file into Lightroom. All I'm going to do is just do some very, very basic corrections over here and show you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to turn the contrast up. I'm going to turn my highlights down slightly. I'm going to turn my shadows up a little bit as well. And then I'm going to turn my blacks down just to add a little bit of contrast to this image a little bit. What you could do, you could also put fire down here in front of her. This is a very simple tutorial, so I wasn't trying to go too in depth. I'm going to bring the highlights down a little bit more. And then I'm just going to bring on my tone curve here, my point curve, just going to bring it up slightly with that. And then we're going to go down here, and I'm going to turn the saturation down ever so slightly. And then just bring the temperature up a bit as well. Let's just add a slight vignette to that whole image. And then contrast up a little bit more, and you're done. Doesn't do much to it, but it just adds a little bit more pizzazz to it. Then you can just save your image to wherever you want to save it to. And you're done. That is the end of the tutorial. If you did enjoy, leave a like. If there's any other kind of tutorials you want, let me know in the comments down below. And I hope you enjoy your day. Have fun, and goodbye. My name has been Thomas. See you all next time with another video.